A very good morning to my dear students. This chapter is based more on activities and experiments. There are many experiments done in this chapter with water, known as what float and what sinks in water. Through these experiments, these will result that an object can float on the surface of the water or not, and also tells if that will sink or not in the water. In this chapter, we have also read that what dissolves in water and what does not dissolve in water. Now I will explain you the important keynotes of the chapter. As you know, this chapter is related with water. So what is water? Water is colorless, odorless and tasteless, which means it has no color, no smell, no taste. Water can be found in solid state, in liquid state and gaseous state. Solid state is ice, gaseous state is water vapor. Now second key point, few objects can float and few can sink in water. What is the reason behind it? Because of density. Density means how much dense and compact it is. You can see in this picture, when the oil is put into the water, the oil will float. What is the reason behind it? Because the water has more density. And in the second picture, you can see if we will put honey inside the water, what will happen? Honey will go in the bottom. Why? Because honey has more density. So this is the reason behind why the things float or sinks in water. Now why the substances dissolves in water means why they are soluble in water, why it does not dissolve means they are insoluble in water. For example, salt. Why salt dissolves in water? Because of the attraction of the water molecules. So salt dissolves in water. Why the petrol does not dissolve in water? Because they do not interact well with water molecules. So petrol floats on water. It does not dissolve in water. Now in these pictures you can see few things are given which can sink and which can float on water. Observe them carefully. You can notice in your textbook a poem is given, why, oh why, a wooden pot in water will float, but a needle will sink. Why does this happen? Let me think. An iron ship will also float, though it's much heavier than my boat, but a needle light as a leaf, thin as a pin, will sink right in. Why does this happen? Let me think. The boy is thinking, why does a wooden boat floats on water, though it is bigger, and a needle which is smaller in size, and it sinks in water? Why does this happen? He is thinking that if iron ship will float on water, though it's much bigger than my boat, but a needle which is light as a leaf, thin as a pin, it sinks and goes at the bottom of the water. Why this happens? He is thinking. You can see the picture of a big ship. Now you may be thinking, it is so big in size, why it is floating on water? You would have observed while doing an activity that when you immersed an object in water, it displaces some water. Similarly, when a ship goes into water, this is also immersed, some water get displaced. Now what happened? There are some forces which acts on every object. Now look at the second picture, right side of the picture. There is an arrow given downwards and upwards. Downward arrow shows gravitational force. Now what is gravitational force? A force that attracts any two objects with the mass. Mass means weight. Everything will fall on the earth because of gravitational force. The same force exerts on ship. or any object which is immersed in water, but water will exert a buoyant force which will throw two objects immersed upward. You can see the arrow upwards. So if buoyant force is greater than the gravitational, the object will float in water. So this is the reason why few things will float or sink in water. The ship is designed in such a way that it displaces some water. So the ship floats. This is Dandi March picture or Salt March, or you can say Salt Satyagraha. It was part of the Indian independence movement. It was a non-violent. Non-violent means without weapons. Protest. Protest means declaration of objection against the salt tax by British government. The Indians were not happy that the government increased the prices on basis of food such as salt. The government has increased the price of the salt and they want to riot. Riot means a group of people, they are behaving in a violent way in a public place. So Mahatma Gandhi led this march on March 12, 1930. It went from Sabarmati Ashram to the village of Dandi. Dandi was on the sea coast. Marchers took a handful of salt from the seashore and they announced that they had broken the law of making salt. This was the major but peaceful challenge against the Britain colony. My dear students, I hope now it is clear to you what are the things or objects that dissolves in water or what does not dissolve in water, what floats on water, what sinks in water. You can also do some of the experiments I have done in my previous video and try at home.